It's Thursday, October 20th, post market. We're going to do, or I'm going to do a review, and I want to go over, I wanted to start with something I usually forget that not everybody knows how to do, which is to prepare your chart with the profile. So, in the Trade and Perform room, the room I trade with, the coach in the room provides, he does this homework for us, and posts these charts pre-market. So like, it's all marked up already, right? I don't, since I'm in the room, since I pay for membership, I don't actually have to know how to build this, right? But I do. So I'm going to show you guys how I would build it, which is a little bit different than what Simon does, but the concepts are the same. I just my rules are just a little bit different than his, but I'll still show you what I do and why I do it. So first of all, this is the market profile on the left, and then the volume profile on the right is the gray. So I'm looking at NQ because that's what I traded today. I did watch ES, but I didn't take any trades there. Sorry, I'm still getting over this, whatever, laryngitis or whatever. Maybe I'm getting sick. I lost my voice, and it's just now coming back a little bit. So I apologize. I sound all raspy, but I don't think I'm sick. So what I do is I go back maybe a week, right? 5 days, 7 days, something like that. And I want to look at the levels that the profile identifies as potentially being important, that I feel are in range for the day. So today is here. So when we opened, this is the information we had. And so you can see, again, this is previous day and this is today. And so hold on, let me just see if I've got the overnight sessions. Yeah, so the way Simon teaches is to not consider the overnight. He only trades the regular trading session, and he does not consider overnight action as important. I differ there. I know it works for him, but I prefer having the evening session in addition. But like I said, that's just the way I do things. So if you have both, let me show you what it looks like. If you have both, the way it changes, shouldn't take too long, is you just basically got more information. So right here, and everything will shift. The point of control is still in the same place, thankfully, but sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it will shift, and he likes to know where the volume area and the VPOC of the previous regular trading hour session is, because for him that's what matters most. I will use the bigger, like 24-hour like this to find. He also feels that the anomalies that occur in the Globex session are not that important to the regular trading hours, because so many people are trading the regular trading hours and very few people are trading the Globex, so that you can have a lot more anomalies and they won't mean anything. So, and I think there's some truth to that. Like this one here might not be that meaningful. Do we even get that high? We do. Well, maybe it was meaningful. Hold on. Let's just test that real quick. So this was not an anomaly in the regular trading hours. Well, that might be something. So I didn't have that on my chart today, but this is, you do get more information if you use both. I also see a level here. We can cheat and look forward and see if it mattered. Yep. So I find it helpful, but I often forget to switch my chart back to 24 hours because, like I said, I've been taught to value regular trading hours more than 24. So you can do it however you want. I would see excess up here too. But these were trapped traders. So let me go back the way I had it. Oops, not studies. We will go back to what I was looking at, because I did not look at the overnight. Even though I'm supposed to, I did not. Like I said, Simon does the charting for us and sometimes I get lazy. Now, why can't I? Oh, did I only load like 3 days? What the hell? Why can't I? Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. I don't want to see today because it's not fair. How many days did I? Data limiting. Sorry, 7 days. Why can't I scroll to the left? Well, that's weird. What did I do? For some reason, I can't scroll left. What did I fuck up? I only changed, shoot, session times, no evening session. Okay, hold on. Let me go back. Does it happen here too? No, here I can move it. All I'm switching is don't use evening session. It's gotta be how many bars? Let me try loading just a few more. That's gotta be it. It's really weird. I'm sorry. Can I move it now? There we go. I don't know what. So that was weird because I was able to move it before. So anyway, we didn't have this information, right? I didn't look at the overnight because I was lazy. And I had Simon's levels already. And I slept in a little bit. So I had this. So what I did mark as important, I generally will always mark yesterday's regular trading hours point of control, which is this, it's purple, and it's got a white line through it, see that? And then yesterday's would have been right here, right? So I mark that as well as the surround. Now this one's a little bit, I went a little bit overboard here, but what I generally want is the high volume node that's associated with it, which actually is pretty small. So see how that, it's filling in the high volume area or the node or whatever it is. Usually they're like this big. And generally I just don't want to take trades in that POC unless we're approaching it from a gap and I know my direction. But generally, not good. Hey, Hefe, what's going on? So, yeah, and you guys are welcome to type whatever you want in the chat, by the way. Feel free. So that's what the blue is the point of control from the previous regular trading hours. Then my low volume nodes or low volume areas are marked by this like tan color or whatever that is, brown, and the red outlines. That is the low volume nodes from previous days. I really only mark them if they are within range. If I think that we could actually get there. I don't want to be marking them. I'm not going to spend time marking them like 400 points away, but technically you could. Which ones you mark is really up to you. If there's ever a low volume node that's outside of the value area, I will try always to mark that. This one here. Oh, what did I do? Hold on, I pushed the wrong button. NQ, no, yes. Okay, so on the wrong screen here. This one here came from here. So, and that did it move? Because that's too big. Okay, so technically I could have removed this because it did trade through the part that was low volume that was left over, which is this here, a little low volume anomaly, and then here, see that like chunk missing? It traded into it already yesterday. So I could have removed that. It's probably, it did bounce off it, but it's usually if you've traded and bounced once, it's not always going to work a second time, right? I did have it on my chart, but now that I look at it, let's see, which is today, which is yesterday. Here we go. I guess, we just barely touched it. We didn't fill it. So maybe I'd leave it, but adjust it. Whoops. Adjust it to right there. So I'm basing it on this, right? And then the bottom, I could have adjusted right there. So I include that low volume node there. And then on the upside, see, here's the volume area from yesterday, the blue lines. So on the top, I wanted to make sure I had, this was a really interesting like pattern where we had a high volume node that wasn't the point of control, but it was low. Sorry, it was a lot of TPOs. On the market profile, it was almost the TPO point of control, but not quite. But it had low volume there. So I knew that one was really unusually important. And so I marked that. And then yesterday, we traded up to it and then squirmed through it, and we created that volume area high right at the bottom of it. So that one I turned that sand color because that was like the most important area outside of the value area, and then this one was the other more important area outside of the value area. Inside of yesterday's value area, you have to be really careful how much you let the volume anomalies or the high volume nodes or low volume nodes really affect you, because a lot of times the value area from yesterday is just like, it's so easy to trade through today unless you gap way far away from it, that like they don't always work as trade locations. I did mark this one. The green on here is a sign for me to is usually a sign for me to mark something, but sometimes they just go away. Like this one did have one here, but I removed it this morning because I saw that they pretty much filled it in. See how like we spent multiple TPOs there, like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It looked repaired to me, so I removed it. Did we even get there? We did, and it might have been useful, but I didn't have it, so we'll leave it on there. It was there before. I took it off before the start of the day. But other than that, I'm not going to mark any other of these. None of the, like, you could technically do these, but look how close they are to the PFC. Like, I don't want to do trades there, right? So like whenever I start the day, you need to know the levels that you want to be executing at. There is a anomaly right here. See that? That's an anomaly, but it's right inside in the middle of the value area. And it was respected yesterday too. See that? So that's why I marked this bottom one. But technically you could have it cover this whole area. It's just right in the middle of the value area, so of yesterday. So I kind of doubt it's going to matter. So anyway, that's what I had. Now the other thing you can mark is yesterday's high and yesterday's low. We usually make these orange. And it's a good idea to have those on your chart because they tend to trap off of them. They'll move just a few ticks beyond it and then turn around. That's very normal. So we'll mark those. And then if there's another one from a previous day that's within range, you might want to mark that too, which would be up here. Oh, and then the red is trapped traders. So I mark when we have excess. This one wasn't single prints, but it was an open that put a bunch of volume in at the top, and then it left them behind with a low volume area behind it, right? And then never came back to it. If we can trade up here, I will be looking to do trades in there. You don't know if it's going to make it or not, and today it didn't. So that's all I had on my profile going in. So all of these will then transfer to the algo. 24 simple. Okay. So now we're going to back up. Wednesday. Okay, I'm going to delete all of the lines that I added today. That should take care of that. It should still have the ones that we just did. It'll also have the voodoo range levels on there, which are the dashed purple lines. If given a choice, I would prefer to see those lines tested before I make decisions. But you don't always get that luxury, right? And I know there's a lot of signals and stuff on here, but let's think about it the way we're supposed to, which is we don't take trades unless they interact with an area that we're already identifying as an area of interest, or they set up in such a way that I think that there's going to be a reversal or continuation, right? But if it's just balancing in a zone, either I can take trap trades or preferably take trades at the locations. I'll show you what a trap trade is. Here, it's right here. So a trap trade, and there's one right here, is where you have one of these flags here called a power bar, which happen at the pivots. If you trade beyond them for just one bar or less, whoops, like this, and then come right back in, trapping anybody who sold the lows. So that is a trap trade. And so that's a long, and those work a lot. So I'm gonna take most of those as long as it's not unidirectional momentum. If it looks like it's choppy or balanced or anything like that, I would take those. Now, sometimes even when it's unidirectional, if it's at location, like this, you can get a trap trade off of that too, at location, right? And that's why it's so important to do that work. Now, that gray area was not on my chart today because it was inside the value area. So, but it was there yesterday. So when this was yesterday, and I did see this. Proprietary, how do I determine voodoo range? You look at my Twitter, and I share it every Saturday. But they are these dash lines here. But you can just look at my Twitter. 30-minute and volume. Not sure what you mean. How do I determine voodoo range? Yeah, you just look at my Twitter, and I give them to you. You can use the indicator if you have TradingView. You can add this indicator here. It's all on my Twitter, but you can add this indicator. Whoops. So add this. So add that to favorites, and then calibrate it to match. I print them. The ES one is pinned to my Twitter. Red Band Trader on Twitter, and I update them every week, and so you have to calibrate that. But as long as it's calibrated for the week, yours will look like mine. So then you'll get the voodoo range levels, which are also good places for executions. But anyway, yeah, this was yesterday. I did have this on. I deleted it for today because it turned out to land in yesterday's value area. So overnight, we traded higher. We traded into yesterday's POC, regular trading hours POC, and rejected it. Right there, right? 2 candles with lowest volume on the 30-minute time frame. So the other day you showed voodoo range with 2 candles with the lowest volume on the 30-minute time frame. Oh, that's not the voodoo range. That you're talking about the decreasing volume and decreasing range pivots. Yeah, it's in my voodoo. If you watch my voodoo range video, I explain exactly how to do it. Here. If you look up, do a search for voodoo range on YouTube, and the first thing you'll get is my video, this, and it explains exactly how they work and what to do. They're called decreasing volume and decreasing range pivots. On my candle charts, they appear like purple shaded areas. That's what those are. And I give that away. You can, if you watch the video, watch the whole thing, it'll walk you through it, and you can watch it as many times as you need till you get it. Okay, so we traded up to yesterday's POC overnight. You can see that they trapped above it, and then they traded below it. A signal that I added to the Trade and Perform algo, it's not on the original. It's not here. You won't find it here on Simon's charts, but something I've added are these arrows. They work better on NQ than they do on ES. Whoops, because of just the behavior of NQ. The way they work, if it's yellow, what it means is, assuming the next bar goes in the same direction, so down, this becomes the point, the line in the sand, that the bears need to basically defend to keep that bearish. So it's the bar that's created after the arrow. The arrow itself is not a signal to get in trade. It's an identification that this is an attempt at a momentum shift. In NQ, what they typically do is they come back and test either behind this or into the bar and then reject, but you usually get another chance to get in right there. See that? So it's a slow trade, meaning it's not an immediate click the button because I see the signal. It develops over a pattern of bars. So what you want is arrow followed by another bar, mark the edge of that bar, price will probably retrace, and if they can get the yellow line, the VPOC line below that bar, so that happens right here, and if it closes bearish, then this time frame is now bearish. So now you could technically enter right here, that's when it triggers. That's what it signals, I mean. But any pullback into this bar or even this bar, you can sell. So this is your ideal sell here because it pulled past the red line. That red line will continue to work or be useful until we print another arrow. So it's pretty neat. We'll see that work later. If you're at the VPOC like this, or the dash line, which is the this VPOC, this is the 2 hour VPOC, you'll see these fire off a lot because you get a lot of trades around points of a lot of volume. So you tend to see those triggers, those signals all the time around the VPOCs. So let me do it over there too. I'll show you it again. This is the bullish side, right? So you're trading like this, 1 bar at a time. You see the blue arrow, you don't do anything, right? You get another bar in the same direction. Great. Draw a line at the high where that bar ended. That gives you the level that you need to get over to confirm that it's bullish. It's probably going to retrace. And it does. Okay. It retraces. It holds the low. That's a really good sign. It's probably bullish. If you want to enter here, it's very aggressive, but you can if you have another reason to. But the way that this signal says is wait until you get above 29.75. See, that one didn't work. Okay, because there, like I said, because it didn't get over it. Now we got another one. So now if we get another bullish bar, right there, now we can move this down. Because now this is the bar one after the pivot, the momentum pivot, which is the arrow. So now if we can develop volume above 23.75, it's bullish. Well, that happens right here. So now literally any dip can get bought. And it just doesn't develop. There's just no, you just had to aggressively get in. It already dipped here, and you got a second one. So I'll have to look into whether or not if you get one, and then it dips into that area, and you get a second one. This might be an immediate entry, but this one still held true because once you get above this, it's bullish, and so you could buy this bar because of this one. It confirmed it, backed off, got over it. You're buying, right? So this is the same thing on the other side. That's where the level is. They retrace. It confirms right here. And then you buy any pullback right there. Right? That's how that works. Now that was at the POC, so it's not the best place to take a trade. If you're going to get stops, it's usually around those POCs. And you do get a lot of those signals around the POCs. So if you're going to be a conservative trader and not trade around the POCs, that trade might not be the best one to learn. But it does work. So this is that low volume node from yesterday. And you can see overnight we rejected out of it and gave a star. That's a good short as long as it's not bullish. Here you got another blue one, but it didn't continue higher, right? So generally, if it's bearish, you can just short this. It's aggressive, but usually it works. See that? As long as you know it's bearish and they beat, because think about what's happening. That arrow is an identification that bulls are trying really hard to flip momentum here. Well, if they tried really hard to flip momentum and they got crushed right away, do you think they're going to successfully flip momentum? No, probably not. So it's got to happen right away. It's not 3 bars later or 2 bars later. It's literally the next bar. And it needs to be bearish, not balanced like this. The lines, the POC MAs, need to be dropping, right? And then that works for an aggressive short. So you could be aggressive and take that. Okay, there's a bullish one. It lines up to the exact same spot as this one did. That's interesting. So now that it's confirmed it, now any dip can get bought. Like that. See how that works? Either of these are good. So that's kind of cool. Okay, it comes back up to the low volume node. Rejects. That's a sell signal. That works nice. Okay, now here's where it gets tricky. That level is technically what bulls need to hold. So if bears develop volume down here, it's bearish. So buyers need to buy this and they need to save it right now. Otherwise, it's not going to go any higher. And they reject it. So now I'm bearish if I wasn't already. Because that momentum shift just failed, right? So this drop you could sell if you're aggressive. And that works. So see, this is not yet bullish, right? It needs to develop another bar. Instead, it immediately gets beat. What do? You can actually sell it, but be aggressive because you're in the hole. You're deep in the hole now, but you did reject off of this low volume node. So that's a sell. It's just dangerous, right? And it stops you out and starts to bounce. So that's the problem with shorting in the hole, is you potentially can get beat, right? I probably would have gotten stopped if I was trading at whatever that is, midnight. No, not midnight. It's Globex. I was busy during Globex, thankfully. I wouldn't have taken an aggressive trade like that deep. Because look at how far you've gone, right? That's pretty aggressive to continue there without much of a retrace. But technically it's bearish. It's just they flipped it. Okay, so pink bar, diamond might be, yeah, that's a little bit aggressive, but sell some more. You could technically scalp this because it's in the low volume node. See, it's at location, so you could be, aggressive and try to bounce off this. But really, the better trade is to wait for the sell signal because we're bearish. So you sell when they reject out of it. I'd prefer it to come back up and test it and then reject again. Okay, here's this trade again. Arrow gets immediately beat. It's deep in the hole. So it's probably for 10 points, then I'm out, right? And that's actually the low. We wouldn't have known that then. Okay, this is still midnight, so we're not going to even work on the reversal. There might be a reversal signal in here, but let's not worry about it because it's overnight and it gets complicated. This one gets immediately beat. That's a scalp long. Notice they can't develop volume below this yellow arrow, which is what you'd need for them to shift bullish, momentum bearish. So while this one isn't, it's just purple bar, green bar, which is like, it only works if it's balanced or bullish. You would have had to identify that it's not bearish anymore to take that, but it's technically a long. But once this orange bar gets left behind, now you know it's going higher. So that one's probably a good buy because now it's bullish. Yeah, so this gets you a good chunk. Notice it gets stopped, it gets stuck right at this low volume node again. Coming up on Europe. Okay, purple bar, star is usually a pretty good buy as long as it's not super bearish. There's that blue arrow again, so now we can move this down here. Now we know it's bullish. Dips can get bought like that. See how it came back into this zone and then reversed? That's your buy. Cool, right? Wow. Okay, comes all the way up to, I wasn't trading here. This was overnight. I was sleeping, unfortunately. I missed all this. Comes right up to the LVN and gives you a sell signal. Think you should take that? Yeah. Yeah. Take that, right? That works. Okay, comes all the way down here. Now remember, we had this level here that bulls need to hold to stay bullish. Are they holding it? So far they are, right? And there weren't any more arrows. So technically, they can still hold it. Now, the only way to really catch this bounce, in my opinion, like, unless you're just going to buy every time it bounces, is you measure the move. Whoops. I did that earlier too. You measure the move. And you're looking for the 61.8 retracement. Whoops. Which is this blue line. If you get a star or a green bar off that blue line and you think it's still bullish, it's a good buy for continuation. No, that one didn't give you much. That one didn't give you much. Okay. No arrows, nothing to do. The POC MAs are starting to flatten or roll over. Definitely cognizant of that. Looks like it's going to get bearish or balanced. Now we've traded under the blue and we see another blue. Let's see if we can up. We need an up bar. Okay, so it stays exactly where it is. So the bears need to get under that. Bears need to take this back to be bearish. And they can't. Oh, that's a sell signal if you think it's bearish. But I'm not so sure it is because bulls put volume up above here. I think I'd probably skip that. Technically, it's a sell. Okay, I guess that was a good sell. The algo knows better than I do. Those orange bars, when it's not bullish, are usually good to go. But like I said, I saw this and figured that this was still valid, but it might not have been because the very next bar was not up. So this one might be invalid. It might only work when it actually succeeds in moving momentum. I'm not actually sure about that. They come down to the LVN and give you a green. I would go ahead and buy this, unless you thought it was really bearish, at least for a scalp. Let's see if they hold it. They do. Well, for the time being, they do. So that looks okay too. And they stop you out and come right back with an arrow. I would buy this. Reluctantly, I would buy it. Yeah, you get a nice little scalp off that too. Here's our new level, line in the sand after the arrow, right? It's going to start to get repetitive because I'm just doing my process. This is what I do all day. Okay, let's see if they can hold it. If they bounce off of it, it's bullish. Oh, they put in another arrow going down and it continued. Now this level is the line in the sand in both directions. So whoever can develop volume beyond that level is the winner of this area, and we'll probably get continuation. We might get some chop. So for right now, it says it's bearish. I'm not going to short into that LVN. Okay, now they develop volume above. Oh no, they're at it. So technically this is bullish, but I need them to develop volume above this to know that I'm bullish. So I'm going to skip this one. See how they can't get any real volume up there? As soon as they get the yellow line to get above it, they reject. So it's probably just chopping, and it's time to wait. Now they've developed volume below it, and now I can look for rips to short. Okay, so I'm not buying that, although it does look like it's the low a day. I would probably not buy that. There, I would probably sell that one. I don't know if it's going to work. It doesn't, so that gets stopped out. I'd have to sell it again. So this one was a little aggressive because it's down at the bottom of this channel. But I liked how they rejected the low volume node, and I would have taken that. It stopped out, and it came right back and signaled again, so that's a short. Usually you'll get your money back. Did I get 10 points? Yeah. Just barely. And the runner would have stopped. So this is a good example of a double bottom that looks like it is actually going to hold. We just need to get above this green line to be sure. But this looks like accumulation now. And so now that's the area I want to be a buyer at if it comes back to it. Oh, wow. They couldn't develop volume above the line in the sand. That's shitty. I don't know what I would do with that. It's technically a short signal. I don't think I would take it. I think I'd wait because this looks like support. So I'd probably wait and see if they can give me a buy signal. That's really what I want. I want them to hold this. There. So now let's see if we can get a green or a star. Otherwise, I probably would just miss it. It's 3 in the morning, so I mean, it might just be chopping around in the low volume node. Yeah, they're just developing volume in the low volume node. See how this dashed blue line here? That's the 2-hour VPOC. They've got it centered right in the low volume node from the previous days. This is just going to be Chop City. So I'd probably just go to bed if I saw this. Yeah. I don't know how long this is going to take to get out of here, but I would just wait for them to exit the area. You can see that they did develop volume above it, so technically this is a long. I'd be very, very, very cautious with it and miss most of that move. This is where it gets tricky. Like, what do you do now? It's technically a sell signal. The arrow says if it can develop volume under here, you can sell rips. Let's see if that works because it's going right into that LVN. And we develop volume above it. On the higher time frame, it should be bullish. So I don't think that's going to work. Let's see. Does it come back? Yep, comes back. Does it give you a sell signal? No, it just leaves them behind. Perfect. That's what I want. So what it told me was sellers are trying to move volume to the downside. Move, not volume, momentum to the downside. They're trying to pivot. They succeed in pivoting. So now it's bearish unless buyers can take back 86. So I wouldn't have bought this. But they do take back 86, meaning it's no longer bearish, and these guys are all trapped. Now, I know that's confusing because it switches back and forth, but that's just the way the market works. It picks spots to be important, and then it either reverses or it doesn't, right? And so there it did. It reversed. I would have missed the move, but I would not have gotten short. Yeah. And so now, see, it's moved up. The arrow's moved up. They're going to try to do another momentum shift here. And so technically, I believe I can move the arrow up here, but it didn't work last time when it didn't immediately continue. So let's see what happens. Do they just keep going? Yeah, they just keep going. Interesting. So when these arrows don't produce down waves immediately, it's not bearish. That's basically, as long as they can hold this. Oh, that's the pivot. So buy as long as they hold that. So this turns green. Does that work? Did that work before? Let me see. We had this before. Let me just check this quick. Continuation. Right here. No continuation, right? So does that mean that this is bearish? If you get under it? Yeah. More or less. More or less. Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. So that might become a bearish pivot if you lose it. See that? Okay. Okay, cool. That's fine. I'll work with that. All right, so this is technically a buy for continuation. Those green, nothing really beats those green bars. Otherwise, the white diamonds work really good for continuation to the upside. So this one, this arrow happened right at the LVN. So I would think if they give this up, it's probably toast. Like that, I probably would not have bought, but it says continuation, right? This is purple. It's probably a buy. It probably goes higher. It chops. Beautiful. I was suspicious of it, and it's gonna chop in here. Look at that. Okay, here's another one of these examples where the pivot doesn't go anywhere, right? So what I want to know is this bullish now? Because that's what it's been suggesting. So that should be a buy. Nope. Okay, so it's not that simple. Darn. I was hoping that would work. Now, here's a good question. Does this arrow, since no other arrow has printed, does this level continue to be important for bears to hold? Can they, in other words, can you take retests short, like right here? If it turns around right there, does that work? No. So it's, yeah, so it doesn't work. It's meaningless, basically, if it doesn't successfully pivot on the arrows. I'm just going to ignore them if they don't produce another bar, because it just becomes a chop zone. And that kind of makes sense. They tried to pivot, they failed to pivot, now they negotiate back and forth. So you had purple bar star. This was a level before that we identified. How did we identify that? Way back here? I don't know. Not sure why that's there. Oh, this. Maybe it's good once you leave the area. That's kind of crazy. Was that it? It came all the way back to there. Huh. Okay, I don't know. That might just be luck. Let's erase the lines and start over for, I would not trade the hour before open. I wouldn't do it. I would not trade any of this. But let's just look at what we have so far. Here, we can use the higher tick chart. So coming into the open, I wouldn't have traded this. I'm not going to trade pre-market. Some people do, I don't. I'm okay trading London, but 30 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour before the bell, I don't touch it. Because it's people talk, news comes out, it's always a mess. So on the 32 tick, which I'm not going to trade from, but gives us a pretty clear view of what's going on, you can see that the previous day POC acted as resistance. We tested above it, got a short signal, and they basically just continued to sell. There's that red diamond inside. That's the bearish version. When it's bearish, that produces continuation, as do the stars, right? So really, the sells worked better than the buys overnight. But then they tried to do a volume pivot, a momentum pivot, but it didn't immediately work. And so I'm not really sure how to interpret that. So we'll just ignore that for now. But then you can see that they found buyers at this old low volume node, which is this grayed out area, and they weren't able to return to this yet. So, oh, and they're right at the voodoo range level. Look at that. So we got a star and a diamond off the voodoo range level. Does that work? Because it looks bearish. So let's see. Does that produce right here? I wasn't watching it. No, voodoo range level's up there. It must go a little higher. Okay, it didn't quite reach it. It just looked like it on the. It just looked like it on that, but it didn't actually make it up there. So, but you can see that this, if you know the direction, star down was working. Let's just see if this worked pre-market. Line in the sand for bears. If they keep it under, it's a short. They develop volume under, they reject it, short. Keep volume under. I don't know if it works on a second try. Right here, no. Oh, here, yes. So the first try, yes. After that, probably not that good anymore. We get above it, they go the opposite direction, and then they come back to it and bounce off the same area. I don't know how often that works. Is this an important level? The arrow's going the wrong direction. Yes. Holy shit. That does work. Okay. Interesting. Huh. All right. So that might just work because we have got the low volume node there. Anyway, that's the wrong. You want this one. Interesting. So we got bearish attempt to turn momentum. The market continued higher, got stuck at the low volume node and rejected. And like I said, I wouldn't think that's bearish, but perhaps it is because they tried here, failed, and then got what they were looking for. Or maybe that's just because it's the low volume node. I'm not sure. One way or another, that's definitely a sell signal. Pink bar star is always a sell if it's bearish or balanced. And then so is the orange. So that's the other sell signal. And then the star here. These are all sell signals, assuming you thought it was balanced or bearish and not bullish. If you thought it was bullish, you'd buy this, you buy this, you buy this, you buy this, and then there's nothing to do here. And then you might buy this one and stop out. So one or another, as long as you had a bias, you did okay, right? Now, if you thought it was short down here, you probably had some trouble, right? Because you'd short this and you'd get stopped out. But then this one would give you a scalp. And then you pretty much know you were wrong. And then it starts working. So the short's always harder, but that's why I have all these lines here, because it helps me identify whether or not we're speeding up or slowing down. I look at the angle, and once it starts to flatten out, I assume that we're balanced. Or if we've been bearish, that we might be pivoting, right? And so I'm not going to be shorting this as often as I'm buying it. And then once it gets up here, it gets to an important level, so I'd be okay shorting. But I might not be super aggressive until we turn them down like this. Now I might aggressively short signals, like if they come up here. Let's see. So this blue arrow does not get, oh wait, yes it does. So it's saying if we can get volume above this, it would be bullish. Let's see if that happens. Right there. Volume above it. Does a pullback get bought? No. Not right away. Not into this level. So that one, it would have been this. And that failed. But it's in the first 10 minutes of the day. So now look at what it does. It goes back to that low volume node and triggers you to buy with a star. So if you just watch the levels and you ignore anything in here, and you just say, I'm only going to take trades if it interacts with one of the levels I found on the profile, right? If that's all you did, and then you just waited for the algo to signal, you're doing great, right? But for me, I tend to try to scalp back and forth between all this stuff and will inevitably take stops as a result. But it looks like even earlier in the day, I don't usually trade the first 10 minutes, but that is perfect. So, and this one worked too. And so did this. And so did this. So if you waited for location, it worked. Okay, that one's pointing the wrong direction. I'm not sure what to do with that. You can see it's bullish now. See how these levels, these lines, I mean, the channel lines and the POC MAs and all that stuff are all rising. So you don't want to aggressively short this. Don't short that. Don't bother. At least wait till you get an important level. Right? This one's still below the important level. Still below the important level. You get to the important level and they rip right through it. You know it's not bearish. Right? Okay. If you wanted to buy this, you had to be early. Otherwise, you had to be really brave and buy the high, which sucks. Like this. You're basically buying the breakout. I've seen sometimes they do this where they print the signal and then they pull back into it and bounce. I don't know how often that happens, but when it does, it sure is pretty. I don't know how often that works though. Voice is going. Sorry guys. So it rips right through the Voodoo range level, backs into it, and bounces with the star. See that? That is a good sign of continuation. Unfortunately, it's right into the POC from yesterday, so I skipped it, and I'm kind of glad I did because it didn't go anywhere. I also skipped this because it was at the POC from yesterday. I usually don't trade around here, and you can see why. It gets really, really choppy especially during the regular trading hours. Anywhere near the POC from yesterday is regular trading hours. It's just a spot where a lot of people need to adjust their position, and it's particularly problematic around OPEX. What's up, Hefe? What's up? Did you have a question? Yeah, you can post it in there. So, yeah, so we get stuck at the POC. It makes total sense that they just like mess with you in here, and you just don't trade it. Is the solution, right? Now we ran into this important spot up here. Remember, I pointed it out on the profile. I said this was the most important spot of the day, right here, because it was the volume area high from yesterday, and then an anomaly over the volume area high. So that was my primary location to look for spots to trade. It was right there. So the first opportunity was this. But you see we got an arrow here, so I waited. I put the line here, and I said I want to get under that, and then I want to see a sell signal after we've developed volume under it. So I did not short this, and I did not short this. I could have, but I waited. Once I got this, I figured we're definitely going lower. And then I was waiting for the sell signal, and it never came. So in a way, I kind of got lucky because I would have thought that this was going to be the rejection point. But what happened is they bounced off the POC. See that? I would never have traded this. This isn't normal. But if it's really bullish, this is what happens. Right? So there's nothing wrong with trading this. I got the arrow, so I knew if we could get volume down here and reject it, that I'd have a good trade. And it just didn't set up. You have the 50% fibbed rectangle extended. Where are they coming from and how to determine? On this chart? What are you looking at, Hefe? What chart do I have a 50% rectangle extended? Are you talking about earlier when I was looking for the retracement? I was just looking, that wasn't lined up to the 50% retrace. Are you watching the Voodoo range video and asking me about that? I don't know what you mean by 50%. I'm not doing any retraces at the moment. The 50% between the Voodoo range is just anchor it from one Voodoo range to another and just find the midpoint. It's just the midpoint. Like you just anchor one side to one and another side to the other one. 50% is middle. So it's halfway. I just use the fib tool in the video because it's easier to draw than having to do math. So yeah, so we bounce off here. Right, the POC. I did not catch any of this. I'm also not going to be shorting this, especially when they try to shift momentum and fail. You used to have a lot of dotted lines and draw a rectangle around it. Did I do it today? I'd help you if I knew what you were referring to. I'm just not totally sure. It probably is part of my process, but I'm not sure what part you're talking about. Are you talking about drawing the volume profile for the waves, the DVP tool? This? That's to find tops and bottoms. That's a reversal technique. I wouldn't do that here because momentum is fast. You could have done it back here. Here, I'll show you. You could have done it to try to find the low. It's right at the open. I don't know if it'll work, but let's see. So if you thought that this might be the low and you weren't sure which one it was going to be, you can use the DVP tool and you draw over the waves on the algo. So let's say you thought this might be the low. Well, for this to be the low, what would have to happen is buyers would need to get over this POC and develop volume up there and then pull back and bounce. You can see they couldn't even reach it. So clearly this is not a time to look for reversals. I'm still bearish, right? I can kind of, eventually you get to sort of see this without drawing it. So then, that's what I would know here, right? Now they put in another low, okay? Let's see if this one has a potential of being the low a day. Okay, the POC is at the very bottom. Here, it's hard to see because the deltas are filled in already. So the POC is way down here, right? This one has a chance of being a low. This might be the low. So you could buy this, and you could buy stars or green bars. Right there. You could buy that. Now, the other rule is it has to develop above this POC, and it did not. So this green is technically not very good because we didn't go any higher. Basically, the POC on the wave off the low was at the highs. So even though we're above the POC to the low, we're not above the POC on the wave off the low. So the chances that we continue higher are lessened. This would be an aggressive trade. So that one fails, but then I bet you this one works. Let's see. Okay, so there's the POC. I need to have a long. I can't take this one unless it's a trap trade. But I've got to get volume above that and then pull back. So volume's above it. Now any pullback can be bought. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't do anything, right? So the only way to catch this is to identify, you'd have to try twice. You would identify the bottom here. Oh, whoops, did I do that wrong? You draw the volume profile here to the low. There. You'd see that we got over the VPOC of that wave. We developed volume above it. That is bullish. It does not always work. But when it doesn't work, if it traps back in, it's usually an immediate impulse move higher. So the buy is here. It does not work. Why doesn't it work? Because the wave off the low had a VPOC. Well, maybe not. Did I just draw that wrong too? If the wave off the low has a VPOC at the highs, it's harder to get it to work. Yeah, see the VPOC is way up here. And so they rejected off of it. So even though this green one here, even though this green bar looks bullish versus this low, there's buyers trapped at the highs and we can't reach them until we trap some sellers. So if you buy this and you get stopped out, now what we're looking for is trapped sellers. So see all this heavy delta down here? That heavy delta right here probably came in right there. See that heavy delta? These weren't here yet, I don't think. But this heavy delta was a clue that we may have trapped some sellers. We're also at a location that was important, identified from the low volume node on the profile. But so this is a good trap trade, which we talked about before, where the low is taken out by just one bar and immediately comes back. And this kind of trap trade where it's at the low of the day after this reversal signal fails, these almost always produce an impulse move. Like literally 80% of the time that works if you do it right. Like it's taken, I've had about 4 coaching sessions on this with my coach, and he charges $150 an hour, and I believe that's actually a rate that you can't get anymore, but that's the rate I locked in a year ago when I bought the coaching sessions, and it has literally taken me, I think, 4 sessions of going over this until I finally understood how to get that trade to work. And I still don't always do it right. So it's probably the most complicated trade I know. So don't be surprised if you don't follow it. But it is the best trade for finding the low, and it works on the high as well. And now that I know it, it's the only trade I will look for at the high or the low. So let's see if it worked up here. Well, this just rocketed. We took a stop in the room, I forget where. But if we get to somewhere where it looks like a high, we can try it at the high. And I can show it to you over time. So this is clearly momentum's higher, higher, higher. Shorting this is pretty brave. It's technically a short signal, but the momentum's really strong. I would rather just buy dips. Buy dips. Right? This is probably a breakout trade. I would not take that. Okay, let's see if this is the high. This looks like a high, right? It's a breakout over this that had no pink bars. It was just like, just push, 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 push. Let's see what this looks like. DVP, draw the wave from the algo. Get the volume profile of that wave. That volume profile is right here at the top. That's good news if you're bearish. So now we need to develop volume below it, which has happened. So any pullback that produces a star down or an orange bar is a sell. That's a star up. That's the wrong direction. We don't want that. Right there. Orange bar. That's the sell. Boom. Right? That's pretty good. And I'm telling you, it works a lot if you know how to do it. Okay. So that one. So the only place I draw fibs, with the exception of drawing them for my voodoo range levels, which is explained in the video, is I will see if we got a big enough pullback to start like getting a continuation trade. So for instance, here, if this was the low, the previous low, I would want it to come all the way back to here to take a green bar long. But now we've gone higher. Whoops. So now I'd have to pull it all the way to the high. And I'd have to mark this 61.8. Because they usually try to save the 50 and fail. Try to save, fail. Try to save the 50. This is probably a short. It's another orange bar and a lower high. Nope, that one fails. I think that might have been the one I took. I think that was the one that failed on us. And then this worked back at the level. Yeah. So, oh, this did get to the 60 here. Oh, no, it got to the 50. So the 50 actually worked here. The 50 retrace actually worked, which is rare. Usually I want it to get all the way back to here, the 61.8. But now it's made a lower high, so I'm done with that setup. It has to be, it can't make a lower high. So now I'm just assuming we're going to balance up here. You can see that the POC lines in the channel starts to go sideways. It starts to go sideways, so we think balance. And again, we want to keep an eye on our levels, right? This was the POC up to the high. That becomes a good short. A star that interacts with it is a really good short, right? And then if I want to take the measurement of this, since I got a lower high, I can't really keep that level back here. This level is no longer usable, but I can measure this extension. Whoops. I can measure this. So now I want a long off the 61.8, and I want it to be a green bar, so it's this one. See, they try on the 50 and it fails, and that's normal. And that's tricky. This one took me about 2 hours of working with my coach to get it right. But it was $300 well spent, because now it pays me like every time it shows up. So that is the one you want after the 61.8% retracement, not this one. You want this one. So that's pretty cool. When you get back up to that level at the VPOC, you get another star. Guess what? You get to short again. Notice how you also had a choice, depending on what you're doing. If you take a slower process and you don't just scalp, you could take those, the complicated trade, and then you could also say, if bears can develop below the bar under the yellow arrow, I will look for retraces into that area to get short. Volume gets developed underneath. You would miss this long, right? I might have taken this and gotten a stop, but I definitely would have shorted this. So that's another way to get, even if you didn't have the POC figured out, you could take it because we had an arrow that developed volume below and then came back in and signaled short. Like I said, might have taken 2 tries because you might have accidentally taken this, but it's just not a big enough pullback. So there was a way to get a long and a short there. You could technically have taken both. Okay, now this last leg. Whoops, damn, keep on messing that up. This last leg. This is where it gets tricky. 61.8, right? That one was good. It made a lower high, meaning that this is no good. Yeah, Heavy. Yeah, it's in the video. Right. Yeah, it's in the Voodoo Range video. But that's not how I get the Voodoo Range levels. The 2 consecutive candles, 1 green, 1 red with decreasing range and volume is how I get the purple pivots. Which is a different, that's how I get these. And then I want to find them when they interact with the Voodoo Range levels, like, or they're close to it, they're more important. But it's purple pivots, yeah. And those are only useful during balance. It won't, they're not gonna, they don't show you where like a reversal in trend happens, but if you're like here, I'll show you. I explained this in the video too, but look, like if you just had these 2 purple pivots and you just said, I'm not gonna buy up here, I'm only gonna sell up here, and I'm only gonna buy down here. You just buy and then sell and then sell and then sell and then maybe buy, sell, right? Like that can just be like your zone. That's what they're meant for. And look, these have been around for a long time, right? So like, does it always work? No, you know, you're going to sometimes get underneath it and then it's going to be a sell zone because you're below it, right? But then once you develop above it, well, now it's a buy zone. So same with this one. Now, when they chop back and forth, you need to wait until you get to one side or the other and defend it. So right here is where they get defended for the first time. See that? All the rest of these just like went right through it. It's not activated yet. This is where it's activated. And then that's what you sell is this and this. And then they go over it and you don't want to do anything with it except for buy it. Buy it. Buy it. Right? So here they go right through it. You can only sell off of it until they take it back. That's the idea. It's just a zone. It's not like some magical level. It's not going to just stop the market, you know. But if the market is like balancing in between them, you can pretty reliably find trades in the area. Yeah, but it's like I said, you need an execution tool to decide when. So like if I see the algo signal in those zones and reject out of them, like I use them similarly to how I use the low volume nodes. It's the same as these. I use it the exact same way. And so like it's on my other chart. So here it'd be 287 to 328. 287 to 328. 287, 328. It's in here. 287 to 328. Something like that. And then pivot is purple, which is right there. So that's one. See how it acts as resistance. And then the other one that I have on my chart right now is 963 to 11. So then we can do the same thing. So copy and move. And I don't think we hit that one. Yeah, I don't think we get there. But those are, that's, let me save this. So that's where those are. And I will take trades out of there. I'm just looking at it in a different chart, so it won't be on this one, but now it will. So see, this is inside the purple pivot. Right? So if we can develop volume above this, it's bullish. And if we can start rejecting out of it, it's bearish. But like, this is the top of the pivot, so it makes sense that these are going to reject out of it. And we could even just trade short up here and long down here if you want. That's going to work a lot. A lot. So see, short, long, short, long, short. But if you didn't have an execution tool like the algo, you wouldn't know that this was the time to short, to long. You might buy this one and get stopped out, you know? Or you might buy this one and get stopped out. Like I might buy this one too. But like it's easier when you have a tool that tells, or if you know how to read the footprint, then you can just do what my algo does with your eyes. But yeah, that is how they work. Okay, so now, but see how the purple pivots act really well as rejection. When you get underneath it, see, here's the line right here. When you get underneath it with volume, see how the VPOC, the yellow line, fell underneath there, right? And then it came back into it, but it rejected with the sell signal. This is a really, really strong sell. Very, very strong sell. Because it's rejected off the top of the pivot, it's gotten volume below it, and now it's rejecting the bottom of the pivot. Super bearish. So that's the best way to use those, is to wait until you know which side is in control, and then hammer it when they reject out of it. Okay, so we get a blue. Let me try this again. So blue arrow, establish volume above. If they came back in there, you'd want to buy it. You could technically buy this. They do it again up here. So now this one says that if they establish volume up here, you could buy it. They then get a sell signal. So I'm not sure what to do with that. It's in the middle of the purple pivot. I probably shouldn't be selling it because this developed volume above it. And so technically the pullback should be bought. That's probably a buy. It is, but only for a minute, and then it rejects. So I'm not totally sure how to catch this. Not sure what happened here. What time is that? Was there like news or something? I don't know. I just don't have I don't have an algo there. I've got nothing to do other than sell this, and it gets stopped out and just comes right back. I guess it's a trap. It's a trap. One bar comes back. You could sell it that way. You'd have to think you were still bullish though, and I guess I didn't think we were bullish here. I mean bearish. You'd have to think you were bearish. And because of this and this, I would think that we're bullish as long as we can hold this bottom. But I guess we don't. Yeah, I guess we don't. Maybe there was news. Look at that. I don't know what happened here. I think there was maybe a bond auction or something. Something happened. I don't know. It just looks unusual. So, but now that it looks so bearish like this, you can't just buy like anything. Like you can't just buy. You should be waiting for these to get beat and shorting them, or else shorting retraces. Like I would not buy this. I know it's at the location and maybe that's one reason to do it, but I wouldn't have. And I didn't. I would rather sell this than buy this because this is so bearish. And I know a lot of people in the room buy this, and that's fine. It's not the way I do things. Okay, they bounce off the point of control at high velocity. I'm probably not touching that. Yeah, that's classic point of control trading. This is what happens when you trade around yesterday's point of control. It gets really choppy and difficult. See that? Sucks. Don't trade around yesterday's point of control. Look at that. It's sick. Just imagine like how many stops you could take just trying to get that right. You know what I mean? Oh, it's frustrating. You don't want to trade there. Like just looking at it is gross. It's still bearish, right? All the lines are going down. We reject out of the point of control. Now I can short it. Right? Okay, we got the blue. Let's see if this works. Blue arrow, momentum shift complete. Can we get volume developed above it? Nope. Not yet. It can't be pink. Nope, that's bearish. See, volume's still not getting developed above it. They're rejecting that, it looks like. Yeah, rejected. No volume. The only bar that was above it was a pink bar, which doesn't count. Because that's price going up without any aggression. It's just sellers pulling their orders. The one time they did get a real bar up there, the VPOC is way down here. And then they do it again and they flush it. So that's... You could technically short this, I guess, but then you'd get stopped out. You'd have to take this one. That's how you catch it. This was a previous level where we had a momentum shift. Let's see if that works here. It does. I don't know how long they work, though. Let's see. Wow, got really choppy here at lunchtime. That's right, I remember that. Chop, 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 chop. If you can avoid see where the lines get all blurred? I just leave it alone here. Like, if I can't see what's going on, I'm not trading. I'll miss this, but I will leave that alone. Okay, now it does a trap trade over here. Oops, I didn't do that right. So this low with a flag gets taken out by 1 bar. Whoops. By 1 bar. And then the very next bar triggers long. That is a scalp back to the upside. I'm targeting the 2-hour VPOC, 11,140. And I would have missed it just a little bit. Missed it by like a couple points. I would have gotten my risk off, and then this is probably an aggressive sell. Yeah, I missed that in real life. That's too bad. That was a good one. Or if I did take it, I didn't hold it. I kind of remember there was one I took and I didn't hold it and it continued. It might have been that one. Okay, let's try our little bottom finding trick. Because this is starting to look like maybe the lows are coming in. So let's take a look and see if we can figure that out. So this looks like a wave down. I'm getting a blue arrow. It's a sign that we might be... Oh, so the VPOC on this is way up here on that wave down. It's the white line. So we need to get volume developed above that before we can make any guess that this is even a guess that this is a low. So we might trade up to 11,116, but it's probably not going to go any higher than that. So chop, chop, chop. Oh, it got stuck under this LVN. I guess I should have left that LVN on there. That's like the 3rd time I've seen that interact. Okay, so it just leaves it be. So we're going to erase this. We're going to draw a new one. New low. Okay, finally, VPOC way at the bottom. Promising, right? You can be aggressive and buy this. Otherwise, wait for the next pullback. And if they hold the low, or even if they take it out by a point or 2 and then bounce back, you can buy it. So let's see. If you buy this, you get like 8, 10 points. That doesn't stop out. This is the preferred buy. This one. And it gets stopped. So now this should go higher. Let me just double check. Yeah. Oof, it missed it by like a point. I still think it'll probably work. Let me see. Yeah. So see that? So it would have taken 2 tries, but it was at location, the low volume node. We got this set up to trigger with the VPOC of the wave to the low at the lows. We developed some volume above it, not a lot, but some. It didn't technically trigger along here because you didn't get a green bar or a star up, but you could, if you took this, your runners get stopped out, but then they come right back in 1 bar later, like without going any further down. There's only 1 bar of range, so less than 15 points lower. We bounce back. That's going to be an impulse move. It might not be the low of the day, but you're going to make whatever you lost on this stop, you're going to make it back more likely than not, like 80% of the time. Okay, now they do roll it over. Tricky. Look at that. See, so it's not the low of the day, but it did create an impulse move. And that's all I would need. So I'm curious, since this is the line would be here. Does that hold as a line in the sand for bears or not? Oh, here's another low. Let's see what happened here. Let's see if we can find this low. Okay, VPOC is way up here. So needs to get above that first. There we go. Got above it. Now it needs to pull back and give me a buy signal. Oh, and it just goes. So it looks like even when this is probably another trap trade, is it? Or no? Oh, by like 1-2 points, it's just not quite right. Close, but not quite right. Okay. Didn't quite make it, but clearly got volume above. So now a pullback, that, is it right at the VPOC? That's probably okay, or else better would be a green bar. Let me see if that one works. That one stops. I believe I took that trade. This is probably better. This one. Yep. Now this interacts with the VPOC. You can add there, and I didn't. Oh, yeah. See, now we've gotten the low, I believe. See that? Big move up. So that's how you find the edges. So here's a high. Let's do it again. I probably wouldn't. This is the end of the day, so I probably wouldn't trade this. I didn't. So let's erase all the lines. Oh, wait. Once we did get above this, where's that arrow? Right here. Was this bullish from this point on? Oh, interesting. It actually, it goes back and forth. It needs to get like a perfect touch of it. Interesting. Okay. Does it come back to it? It does. And it gets another one. Wow. Okay, let's see if we can figure out this top. And then I'm probably going to take a break here. All right, so VPOC at the top. See that? VPOC at the top. Star gives you your entry. Okay. And then if you get a pullback into that level or near it and you get an orange bar, it's a sell. That's too low. It almost worked anyway. Let's see, you would have to take it here. That was pretty intense. Comes back to the LVN, tries to bounce, rejects. You can probably short that, it's pretty aggressive. And they're just dropping it like a rock. Okay, so let's double check our profile. See what we can add for tomorrow. I'm not trading tomorrow, but I'll just show you how I would do this. For tonight and tomorrow. NQ profile. Okay, so now we're gonna shift it forward for today. We're gonna first of all mark where the point of control was, which is way down here. So I'm gonna get rid of I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna delete it. Oops. Even though it's been working, we just developed the point of control down there. So I can just do this. And then this one is old. Okay, our previous high is up here at the purple pivot. That was like high a day. Right there. And then low a day was at the bottom of the LVN. See why it's important to do this? Like, look at those levels. Look at that, right? Like, you had it. You had the top and the bottom. And then this one was in the middle of the value area. And that's why, it was right in the edge. And that's why I said I thought it was the most important as long as we were able to develop above or below it. But you can see we just traded right through it quite a few times. So even though I thought it was going to be important, we expanded in range and it turned out not to be so important. Okay, so now let's zoom in. So the volume area low is in the LVN and we have some excess below it, right? That should be a good trade location, but we might not get to it, I would think. We're right there though, so we're here in today's POC. So this important level, it's still, I mean, it looks like they've shifted this. Whoops, a bit. The anomaly looks like it's this. You could use this whole chunk here, but I'll just mark the top of it. And then the high volume edge right there from the other day is pretty important. Then this one, here's the volume area high. So if there's any anomalies above that, it's usually a good idea to mark it. So the profile has one right here. But you can see it's not really anything interesting on this side. Notice volume area high is right next to this low volume node. So in my opinion, once again, that becomes an important level. And if you look, that's the valley of the day. See how it doesn't get any lower than that? I don't think. Oh, I can't get in there? That sucks. It's going to measure it. I think that's as low as we got. Except for down here. So very low volume up here. Above volume area high. Value area high, I mean. Oh, and then there's another one right here. See that? So we're going to mark that one too. Get these edges right. The volume value or the volume edges are really important. You really want those right because you don't want to miss it by like a tick, you know. I mean, you can get as close as you need to. I've got this on a huge 55 square inch TV, so you probably looks like I'm doing surgery on the if you're on a laptop. But I mean, now I can like you could do it with whatever tools you need. All right, so that way I can mark those edges. Now you can see up here in the purple pivot, we did develop some volume up there, right? And then if you look at the actual day itself, you can see that we had a distribution on the top, a distribution on the bottom, and then low volume in the middle. So it's basically a double distribution day, but it's just abnormal because we have this weird thing. And what's funny is that weird thing, we didn't trade, we traded back and forth, but not that many times. Look at how there's these two areas were the big developments, right? Up on the top and up on the bottom. Down here, there was one here, a little one here, and then over here. So really, we ought to mark that too. And how you want to do it is up to you. But I see it like this. That's how I see it, is that there's a high volume area in the middle that's probably going to need to get renegotiated, and then there's edges there. And see how that created an edge too. And then, like I said, this one is the primary one because it's right on top of value area high. So if it's bearish, this should hold. The green, 11.262.25 should hold. I actually don't even need that there because I've got the other one. I've got the sand color ones. So any other anomaly right here, it's kind of weird. There's a chunk right here too. What's up with that? Another low volume node? Yep, it's another low volume node. Okay. We had a lot of them today. All right. So that's kind of busy, but you get the idea. Where do I want this? Probably the edge. Right there. Okay, so now let's take a quick look. Here, we'll save it. At the, obviously these levels you'd only get after the day, right? So it's not fair to say, look at all the trades that occurred there, but I just want to show you why they're there, like what it looked like here. And you can kind of see that, like, oh, here, I'll do it on the higher time frame. So, hold on. Okay. So if you go back to the beginning of the day, what we're marking off. So the POC ended up being right down here under the open. See that? That's the new POC. That's where they developed volume. So they opened above that, bounced off of the area, and then we ended up developing volume there later in the day. So this is the higher distribution. We did that first, right? Higher distribution. Hold on, let me erase these extra lines. I don't need all these. Those were from the arrows. We don't want those. Okay. Oh, and then these are old too. Delete. Okay. Yeah. I don't know where the other lines are coming from. Shouldn't have quite this many. Well, regardless. Could it be from here? Huh. Did I get rid of something? There we go. I got rid of them. Okay. So, it identified the PLC, which is below or right at today's open, right? And then there's a low volume node or two in this area that we're going to go past. There's this anomaly, low volume node. This ended up being volume area high. And then anomaly or low volume area or node above here. Previous day's high. I can fix this. It wasn't exactly right. Okay, and then you can see this is kind of why these low volume nodes develop, is because they're resistance during the day. So see how we went through the area that became the POC, went down into this one, and we developed volume all afternoon where the POC is. And you see where the low volume nodes became resistance and support, right? I need one more thing. Since there's two distributions, we need to mark the, where is it? ES profile, CL profile, where the hell is it? NQ profile. What the fuck? Where did it go? NQ profile, I moved it. Okay, so we need the high volume area, or the high volume point of the upper distribution. I mark, that's actually more important than this. It's this, I think. Hold on. Man, I can't measure that. Pretty sure it's this one. So it's 70 or so. Is, if you look at the morning, that's where most of the volume was done up here. Oops, oh fuck. And I'm gonna lock it. I should lock those other ones too. Okay. So that is the high volume like location of this higher, this upper distribution. That's where all the volume was done. Where do you think that was? I could have looked at Delta and showed you, but I bet you anything it's when they stopped it out, right? This, that's where that volume came in. So let's see, did they come back and touch it? I don't think they did. No. They left it behind. So chances are we won't see it, but it's there. Now if we get under this, remember this was support all day. Right? All day long. That was support. And we're now trading under it. So now it's Globex, so that, you know, there's not a lot of trading going on. It's very liquid. But it looks to me like we're coming down to 1100, 11,000. All right. I hope that was useful and interesting. I'm going to shut it down because it's already an hour and a half. So, yeah, for those of you who have any questions, you can always DM me on Twitter. I'm at RedBenTrader. If you want to know more about the algo, you can email Simon, and he is my coach. Trade, the letter N, the word perform at gmail.com is my coach and developer of the TNP algo. My algo system is, or my algo signals are based on his algo. Right, so his algo looks like this. And it's a little easier to read, a little less cumbersome, and then mine has those symbols along with some other ideas. So if you want to learn more about this, which is where my algo comes from, you can email Simon and ask him for a free pass to the room, and you can see what we do in there. You can trade with us. And yeah, normally it's $95 a month to be in the room, but he will give you a couple days for free if you mention that you follow me. And so if you have any questions about the algo, go ahead and email Simon. Otherwise, if you have questions or requests of things that you'd like to learn from me, let me know. I will talk